My name's Rauni Higson. I'm a silversmith based in Snowdonia in the mountains of North Wales, which is part of the UK. My studio, my workshop is in a converted chapel, and I mostly use hammers and stakes to create objects from silver. I do make jewellery as well, but I'm showing you here a little insight into making a beaker, a drinking vessel, from silver, using a technique called hammer chasing, which is where I change the shape of the beaker just by hammering it directly without using punches. Chasing very often uses small steel punches, but I just hammer directly. But the silver is supported from the inside with pitch, which is a kind of tar. It basically gives enough resistance for me to be able to change the shape of the form of the silver, but it doesn't just collapse. So it's like just enough resistance, but just enough flexibility. And the pitch is melted on a hot plate and poured into the form of the beaker with some tape to stop it from spilling over the top. And then I have to wait for it to cool. Everything basically happens quite slowly with silversmithing. It's all slow and it all takes time. But you can basically do anything you want with silver. You can always return it to its original state of flexibility by annealing it, which is what you saw me doing earlier with the flame. So by heating it up, it becomes soft, and then you can hammer it some more. You can change the shape of it some more until it becomes harder, and then you can anneal it again and it becomes soft. This is about 3/4 of the way through making this piece. It started actually as a flat sheet, so there's no solder joins on this piece. It's been raised up from a flat sheet into the form of the beaker. I've been through this entire process of filling it with pitch and shaping it with hammers once before, and then it became hard, so I had to drain the pitch, anneal it, which is softening it using the flame, and then refill it with pitch. And here I am just refining the form and getting it closer and closer to the final sort of crisp lines that I want of those spines and curves. The beaker is called Rivulet, and those curves and lines are all based on the pathways that water takes. Water takes the path of least resistance, and a dribble goes down either a mountainside or a window pane or whatever. Water will always take the line of least resistance, but it will always, pretty much always, curve. So those curved patterns are basically the lines that water chooses for itself. It's very important when you're repeatedly hammering silver to make sure that the hammerhead is clean, because if you've got even a tiny little speck of dirt or a hair or something on the end of the hammer, you'll be imprinting it hundreds and hundreds of times before you know it. So quite often I'll clean the hammer on my jeans usually while I'm working. The hammers or the hammer heads that I'm using have slightly different curves on them, so I'll be selecting a hammerhead to get into a particular shape or to create a particular form or a depth of curve. And very often I spin the hammer because both ends of the hammer have got different forms, so one end might be flatter than the other, for example, and because I'm constantly blending quite complex three-dimensional curves, 1 minute one end of the hammer is right, and then I'll spin it around and use the other end of the hammer. And it's a way of basically having two tools in your hand at the same time. But the whole thing is pretty much done with just 3 or 4 hammers, really. Not much more than that.